edition of the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable. Apologies for, I discovered with the help of Shannon Buckmaster how to take over somebody else's account and get this thing running, so thank you for your patience. Today on the Tuesday edition, we have Shannon Buckmaster from the Chehalem Chamber of Commerce. We've got me with my nice shingles. Joyce Flemming from Congresswoman Bonamicci's office. We have Remy Droukin, counselor from the city of McMinnville. We have Scott Cooper from McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. We have Senator Arnie Roblan from everywhere and all the time.
Yep.
And we'll make sure that you get your plug in for your evening thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh. We have Abhishek Stone from SEDCOR, Strategic Economic Development Corporation. I think I got that right. We have Mayor Michael Cate from Amity. We have Joya Goodrum from the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce. I mean,
we've already had Chehalem Valley. It was a different person.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder, Senator. We have Joya Goodrum from the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce. And I believe we have Commissioner Mary Sterrett on the phone as well. And if it's not Commissioner Sterrett, then we'll have him talk anyway. Okay, well, let's get started. I'd love to have us start with a congressional update, and then we'll go to a legislative update. Joyce Flemming, what do you have to tell people in the community and on the call today?
Oh, thank you, Commissioner. I would like to tell people, first of all, that the Congresswoman is having an elected officials meeting this Friday at 1 o'clock. Please don't hesitate to send me an email if you have not already received an email about the meeting and you would like to join us, and I will get you a link. Let's see.
I have a question about that, Joyce, before we move on. Yeah. So that occurs at the same time as this panel on Friday. So
it does. I'm sorry
between our host and the Congresswoman wanting to respect the Congresswoman's schedule, are we going to cancel, postpone, or change the time of our Friday panel?
Also, if I may interject as well, the Oregon Mayors Association is having their summer conference virtually this year. And I think it ends with the governor speaking to us around 1 o'clock as well on Friday. So,
an Association of Oregon Counties Public Safety Steering Committee is meeting at that same time as well. So I'm supposed to be on that meeting at 1 o'clock.
So Friday 1 o'clock is a hot topic. What are we doing with this panel on Friday?
Let's figure it out afterwards, after we go through that. But let's just say that right now, 1 p.m. on Friday probably won't happen. But
probably will. I'm sorry, Casey, was that will not happen or probably
not happen? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Friday at 1. We'll figure it out.
We need to reschedule this, in which case that's fine. Thank you for the feedback. We will, I think we'll be looking for another time for this. It sounds like there's a lot going on. And then in Washington, D.C., wanted to let you know that the Congresswoman's Childcare is Essential bill did pass the House last week. So that was a good move forward. Right now, as you know, the Senate is working on the next COVID bill. We're waiting to see what they do with that. They are trying to work out something with the unemployment benefits. They're actually trying to work out a lot of things, I believe. So there's also a lot going on with education. This week, the Congresswoman is leading the delegation to reverse a rule with the Department of Education that would right now take $11 million out of public schools and put it to private schools. So we're working on that. Working on child hunger prevention and a variety of other things. But those are kind of the highlights from our office.
Great. Thank you, Joyce. And thank you for joining us. Are there any questions for Joyce? Or advocacy or?
Did I hear that her mother passed away?
Her mother did pass away about a month ago.
Okay,
yeah.
so my regards to her. She's been
Thank
a good friend, so.
I will convey that.
And
I also wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I also just wanted to say I need to jump off this call at 1:30, so I'm sorry to miss the rest of this one.
And her uncle is Neil Simon, the playwright.
Yes.
Representative Bonamicci's
was.
Which is kind of cool. And they have Neil's dog because he couldn't take care of it, so he gave it to the Bonamiccis or the Simons, whichever you want to call them.
Right. These are some good details. I just know that Congresswoman and her husband are about equally in the paper these days. So
that's true.
Yeah. Abhisha has a question for you.
I have a quick question regarding the child care bill, the work that the Congresswoman is doing. I apologize, I have not read that work. Is embedded within that, or is the intent to trigger funding to continue to develop the child care framework within the country?
Mm-hmm. It's basically a $50 billion relief fund for child care providers. And, again, it's only gone through the House, but that was good.
And is that more about recovery for existing child care providers or about developing additional infrastructure for increased child care?
I am going to have to refer you to our child care expert on the staff.
Probably just a better
not me.
Thank you.
It's a really good question. And why don't I do an email connection with you and Jess, who would be able to answer your question in a lot more detail than I can give you.
Thank you, Joyce. And really where that comes from, of course, is, we all see and feel the need for increased childcare. We've lost a lot of childcare service providers. I'm now being contacted by churches and folks, and Commissioner Sterritt connected me with somebody just today talking about how do we become service providers and expand on this need so that people can return to work and return to school, and folks are looking for resources. So that's where that comes from. Thank you for that, Joyce. I will message you my email address real quick.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Abhisha, for the follow-up on that. We've talked a lot, Commissioner Sterritt and Commissioner Olson and I have talked a lot about this, but haven't known where to go, and especially because trying to have the county provide the service or helping with funding it, it's such a big cost that we don't really have the resources on our own. But I'll look at the bill too. So, thank you. Are there other comments or questions for Joyce? Okay, thank you very much for getting us started. Senator Roblan, what would you like to tell people in the community? And thank you for the fireside chats.
Okay, there you go. We'll hit that one a little bit later too. Tomorrow we have our e-board meeting. Again, I think it's our third or fourth since we got out. We're actually only coming together to give authorization for the governor's agencies to be able to spend some of the money that they've gotten from the federal government. So I don't have a whole lot of particulars on all of it right now, but it's another round of resources that will be available to agencies to get out around the state. So we'll find out more as we get closer to the actual e-board. And then Monday, we start our next special session. So that'll be coming up fairly quickly, and let it be known that there are battles going on outside and around to decide what that will entail. Mostly it's called to do the rebalance of the budget. So as people know, in Oregon, you have to have a balanced budget. This COVID response caused us to lose about $2 billion. And so because as Casey explained at the beginning, some of my Republican colleagues didn't show up at the end of the last session. That created us not spending our money. So we had $1.2 billion left over. That got used up. So then we were about 800 million short. And so in order to deal with that and to keep education whole, they're going to extract about $400 million out of the Education Stability Fund, which will make the budget about a little less than $500 million short. So then we've been meeting all of our subgroups. I'm on a couple of them, education and transportation economic development. We have been cutting the budget back using our scalpels rather than the across the board stuff the governor can do. We've met with the co-chairs, and they are putting together a co-chairs budget, which should be out, that we will try to implement during that special session. The governor left open in her declaration of the special session that there could be some policy bills, in particular around public safety. I'm not sure that they're all ready yet, but there's a whole lot of other people that have a whole lot of other things they would like to do. There's housing, there's issues on liability protection, there's interest on safe and whether or not there should be presumption of illness if you're online worker. There are just a lot of swirling conversations going on about to fill this special session up with a lot more policy bills. I would say I don't know what's going to happen out of that. There's different groups that would like different kinds of things. My goal, my hope is that it will be mostly just get the budget done. And then September, October, another special session to go back to policies again when we flesh them out a little bit better. And some of them probably could wait actually until the full session comes back in January or February next year. So those are battles that are still going on behind the scenes. And I don't know exactly how those are all going to play out, but you stay tuned. Once you call a special session, once we come in, it's kind of free will. If you don't have a plan going in, they tend to last for a long time. We've had that happen in the past. I don't think they will allow that to happen too much. So I think it'll be mostly budget and mostly getting it. I hope that part of that budget conversation will be to put some more general fund back into the e-board so that if we have a fire season that's big or if we have some other things that break out, we'll actually have some resources in the e-board to deal with any emergencies that show up, because we've used up pretty much all of the general fund in the e-board as of right now. So I guess that's the biggest issue. And if you want to know a little bit more, Business Oregon's director or interim director is going to be on the radio show tonight. So we're going to be talking about Small Business Navigator. We've got a couple of our coastal people from Chambers of Commerce that'll be on. Dave Gomberg and I will be interviewing people. We also have the attorney for Pacific Seafood. We can talk a little bit about what they did and how they got control. Lincoln County seems to be recovering pretty well right now, and I think they did as well as they could given the outbreak that they had. So we'll just have a follow-up on that. So you're welcome to stay tuned and listen in on that at 5 o'clock tonight. So other than that, nothing's really happening.
Other than that,
yeah.
Abisha, first question.
Thank you for the update, Senator. I don't know if you were on the call last time that I publicly thanked you and the e-board for the work that you did to get some more funding through for direct business support grants through Business Oregon, and also thanked you for your work in removing some of those barriers to access, some of those compounding limiting factors that are preventing businesses from accessing these funds. And so I just want to, again, show my appreciation. Thank you for that. The businesses, thank you for that. And to ask you to consider that ongoing, of course, as you do your work, to try to get more resources out to the community, that some of these tiering limiting factors prevent us from being able to help our business partners access those funds. I also want to put a plea out there to consider opportunities for partnering with your 501c6 economic development organization partners who are providing the boots on the ground support for those businesses, because we are talking about the recovery pivot right now. And I'll share a little bit more about work that's being done on that when it's my turn to do so. But I just would like to continue to share that voice to say we are those partners, we are here in the fight, and we also need some support in order to be able to do that work ongoing and help those business partners. So thank you for that hard work I know that you're doing at the e-board and for continuing to advocate for access.
Yeah, and I guess I would say thank you for those comments. I will tell you that the previous e-board, before we actually got to give this money out, this last e-board, 2 items were taken off the table because a number of us were a little uptight about how the money was going out, especially to rural communities, whether the people in the metro area who got their own money, if we were backfilling, giving them 2 shots at the same apple. And part of that conversation left 2 issues. One was the revenue, venues and those kinds of issues, and the other one was this business money. And so John Lively, who's representative, actually ran a work group that I was on, and talked about how do we go about doing that. And I will tell you that when you get more people, it was a fairly good group. There were a couple of senators, myself and Finley from Eastern Oregon. When you get those groups that can work on their own, and we probably met 6 or 7 times to kind of figure out how to get that money out, you can raise those issues, and being on these calls is helpful. Understanding that a lot of those businesses had only been able to get $1,000 and it really wasn't enough and they needed some other help, made it clear when we were having those conversations that we had to have make sure that we extended some of those things to give those businesses a chance. And I want to recommend and let people know these meetings are really important because it informs us when we get chosen to be on some of these work groups, we can have an influence on making it come out a little bit better each time. So thank you for all of your work too.
Awesome, thank you. Other questions or comments or pleas for Senator Roblan? All right, well, I wish you so much success with the special session, and yeah, we'll follow it closely. So thank you for that.
Yep.
I'm going to move on to Commissioner Sterrett next. Commissioner Sterrett, are you ready to update the community? What would you like to tell people?
Yes, Commissioner, a couple of things before I forget, and this is information everybody might have, but I just wanted to call your attention to it, and that is if you've got folks or you want to share the information about the mortgage relief folks who are dealing with foreclosure. There is a foreclosure prevention assistance program. You can go to 211info.org or call 211. Also, Oregon Housing and Community Services has information, and the Housing Authority of Yamhill County, just so that your folks are aware of the fact that they can defer mortgage payments, but they have to request it. It's kind of a forbearance. All they have to do is basically pause the mortgage payment that they'll make at a later date. So, and that's definitely related to House Bill 4204, and then also the money from the CARES Act. So that's good to know. And also, we found out today that the census is going to be sort of wrapping things up. The Census Bureau says it's going to stop in September instead of October because they're having, obviously, this is having some issues getting a more accurate count. So they had planned to keep counting until the 31st, and I believe they're going to stop at the end of September. The other thing I wanted to share is, and Abishai did reference this earlier, we have some local churches who are wanting to step up and perhaps provide some childcare options. So we're wondering what that would look like in terms of compliance and what they would have to do in short order to get up to speed, because they typically have been doing pre-K through 8th grade as it is, but if the schools don't open, then they do have capacity for childcare. So what does that look like in terms of retooling, if you will, for that? So I had asked Abishai what that looks like, and also had asked Jody a little bit about that. The other questions that I've been getting is, do the private schools have to have the same, will they have the same restrictions as the public schools when it comes to some of the restrictions? And we know that there's a little bit of frustration out there because the private schools that have contacted me said they're supposed to be turning in their guidance to be approved for their blueprint by the 17th, I think, but there's supposed to be a revision of those guidelines on the 15th, and they really don't know what to tell parents. So they're a little concerned that the information keeps changing, but they're wondering whether or not there's the same authority that ODE has for private schools as they do for public schools, and they had some questions about that. So Jody is going to get me some more information, and Abishai is going to help with the child care piece of that. And the other thing related to the uptick in cases, I wanted to just point to past years. And I always like to look at what some of that information tells us. We tend to look at this uptick in cases and could, be alarmed. I mean, it's not something we're going to ignore, but I was looking at some of the numbers, and it's always good not to have me rattle these off, but to just look yourself if you wanted to see that the CDC has said for the breakdown for flu in some of the worst years that we had. It's not too terribly off what we're looking at now. The other question I had was having to do with the lag in test results. So when we do see a reporting of an increase in tests, is that accumulation of what we're seeing for just a few days, or do we have the past 2 weeks? As we know, some of these test results are taking 2 weeks to come in. The other thing that we should talk about a little bit is the testing capacity and how we're looking at perhaps some of the testing materials being in short supply. So theoretically, we could in the state have the capacity for about 48,000 tests, and that doesn't include the out-of-state ones. But right now, we've got about 35,000 test results in, and the positivity rate is test statewide is 6.1%. So my question is, has that increased because we've done increased testing, and are all coronaviruses showing up as corona positives? Because even the common cold shows up as a corona virus positive. So that's all I have right now, but I would encourage everybody to take a look at the numbers for specifically years 14 through 15, 17 to 18, and 15 to 16 to just take a look at those flu numbers and the numbers of fatalities, hospitalizations. We do have capacity in our region for 20% more hospital capacity in Region 2. We have 7 people hospitalized right now. We're supposedly at or at capacity this weekend, and that is not all due to COVID. So we need to keep that in mind. But the sky is definitely not falling when it comes to hospital capacity at this point. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sterrett. Are there questions for Commissioner Sterrett?
This is Senator Roblan. I just want to say that it is in the ongoing conversations about reopening schools. It is my understanding, and on that committee there are people who represent private schools. It is my understanding that the health requirements, those listed criteria for when you can start your school, are the same for public and private schools. When it comes to curriculum and stuff, that's a different story. But when it comes to public health and following those guidelines, those are guidelines that are across the board for all schools. They are coming up with some new ones for schools like the Delphian School in Sheridan, because it's a boarding school. So they haven't got all those criteria yet. And I do feel for all of those people, because the next group of recommendations is going to come out on the 14th. And I know that they have to have their plans in by the 17th. So there's a lot of, this has been a very difficult time in trying to figure out what the best solution is. So, yeah.
And then Commissioner Sterrett, I believe that Abhisha has a question for you as well.
I do, and thank you, Commissioner Kula. This might not be a fair question for you, Commissioner Sterrett, and I know that in advance. Senator Roblan, you might also have some comments on this. I've heard that the Federal Reserve or stockpile of PPE has been depleted, and so that now the individual states and counties are needing to go through a FEMA supply chain in order to get those resources. So first of all, I'd like to know, is that accurate information? Secondly, I would like to know how Yamhill County is doing in terms of their own stockpile and what our levels are. Are we prepared in that regard?
This is one of those times where I wish that Sergeant Young was on the phone, and we might actually be able to get him before the call is over to answer that. I was on a call, and I believe Commissioner Kula was on the same call on Friday, where they talked about FEMA, the FEMA stockpiles and how we're accessing those. But my takeaway from that was that we did not have an issue countywide, but I can get more information from Brian Young, our emergency manager.
And I know that will be one of the conversations that we're having. Business Oregon has been instructed to be the buyer for the state of Oregon for more PPE, and we are going to have that conversation tonight as well. So I don't know the answer right now with respect to how much they have available. It will be, they'll procure it, but you're going to have to buy it from them. So I'm not sure exactly where we are with respect to any orders that they have right now and what's going forward, but we'll find that out too.
That sounds good. Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Sterrett. Like I said, I'm sure that's not a fair question. We can't all know all things. So I appreciate your referral to Brian. And just a reminder to everyone and Senator, as you have that conversation tonight, that in addition to the state's PPE directory, SEDCOR has also a localized PPE directory, and that the chambers, MEDP and SEDCOR are here to help make those connections to our local manufacturers. If localizing a supply chain and deepening those roots here in Oregon are a part of that state plan, we are here to support you. We completely support those efforts, and we appreciate you undertaking those.
And we know that the South Coast has also figured out how to go direct to China and has been buying stuff as well through our similar organizations. So yes, thank you.
Way to put the plug in, Abhishek. Yeah. Okay, I want to make sure that we have time for all of our economic development and business folks. So I'm going to move on to Mayor Keep. Mayor Keep, what would you like to tell us today in the community and here?
Well, some good news. Our park is about to open. We're getting close to done with the construction and finishing it up. Right now, we're set to have it open this Saturday on the 8th. So, of course, we'll be requiring all the mandates that the governor has put in place for parks. But we're excited to get that open. It is too late this year. We did cancel with the Volunteer Firefighters Association the pancake feed and car show, which is such a high. Sorry, my wife's dog. But the pancake feed is such an important thing for our community, and we love that. So unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But at least we're getting the park opened up, so that's a good thing. Casey, you did mention in the email, and I agree about our case numbers in the county, and it is alarming how quickly they are rising. And I just a quick plea to people, please. Follow the guidelines. Please do what you can to help lower those numbers. Working in an industry of education where we're reliant on those numbers now to get to a point where we can get kids back to school. We need that. We need people to do whatever they can do to help lower those numbers so that we can get kids back to school, and that's going to help people get back to work and all those things together. I know some people like or don't like the way that the governor has done that. It doesn't matter at this point. It's the rules, and no school is going to be able to open unless they meet those numbers. And at least for the in-person schooling, we'll have the distance learning, but everybody wants to get the kids back in the buildings, and we need to do that by lowering those numbers. And we can look and see what's going on up in, I believe it's Umatilla County and Hermiston and in that area, and they're locked back down. They went back to baseline because the numbers keep going in the wrong direction. And so please people, let's do whatever we can to get those numbers down. Whether you like it or not, that's what we've got to do to be able to get things moving in the right direction for our economy and for our kids and everything else. So that's really all I got, unless anybody has questions for me.
Questions for Mayor? No, thank you very much for addressing that. And before going to business folks, I'm pretty sure that Commissioner Sterrett managed to get us Brian Young, our emergency manager, on. I think that's who 971-901 is. So I'm going to unmute and we'll see.
Hey, can you hear me?
All right.
Yeah, the 971 number is me. I apologize. I'm driving, and I don't know why, but the Zoom link will not work on my iPhone for whatever reason. I have no idea why. So I apologize.
welcome.
Am I still on?
Brian?
Oh.
Welcome, Brian Young. What would you, the question from Abhisha Stone, I believe, was about personal protective equipment and the FEMA stockpile versus the state versus our supplies here.
Okay, so I guess I'll start locally. We do have a kind of a stockpile in place right now for various groups. That would be like the healthcare, the hospitals themselves, the 2 hospitals, then long-term care facilities would be another one. Primary care clinics is another one. Police and shelters are another one. And finally, to round it out, would be a fire stockpile. And those are strictly PPE that go through a formal request process through public health and get the public health approval. They're basically, if you think back to the H1N1 stockpile that we fought to get early on in this pandemic, that's what we have there. We've got, and now to go to a little bit more of what we have locally is we've had several pushes from the state in KN95, the non-medical grade face coverings, and we've pushed those out very heavily to cities, counties, the migrant farm worker community through UNIDOS and WorkSource Oregon, huge push out to the schools. And obviously this was before we knew that the schools were going to be closed down for at least the beginning of the year. So they've got a pretty fair supply there. We did get another push of medical grade KN95s that we are pushing out to fire and EMS specifically for patient care type stuff. And I think we're going to try and hold on to some of those medical grade ones, I hesitate to say a majority of them. We're going to try and get those only out to the folks that really need the medical grade stuff. We still have the KN95s. And I guess for this group, we're working on trying to get a public push here in the next couple of weeks. So mum's the word on that one, please. We're still working logistically and trying to get our stockpile push from the state in hand before we advertise it. So more to come on that. Maybe next week I'll be able to join the call and give you more on that. What the state has on hand, I know they're actively searching and working with both contractors or contract contacts, suppliers for PPE, and are getting some of those stocks in, and they're spending state money for that. And FEMA, I have no clue what FEMA has on hand or what they're pushing out. Does that help?
Yes, I think so. Abhisha is nodding, but Joya Goodrum has a question for you.
I do, thank you. Hi, Brian, it's Joya with the McMinnville Chamber. First, want to say thanks for giving us all that PPE. We have been sharing that with our members. With regard to healthcare, like nursing homes and things like that, do they just go directly to public health to ask for that? There's a form, right, on your website? Is that how they request if they want some PPE?
Yes. Hello, Joya. How are you? And yes, they know to go directly to public health, and Paul Mayette is basically their contact and approval person through public health. And what that does is that creates a good, just singular person or department that they go to instead of shotgunning a request out and not knowing where it's going to land. They go to that one person, and then it comes to us, and we handle the logistics side of it.
Okay. And all of the nursing homes know this because we have 14 of them that are chamber members, and I just want to make sure that they're all aware of this that's available to them.
As far as I know, yes. I believe public health works through various state databases, whether it be registration or licensing boards, those types of things. But they collect all that data, and maybe even through vulnerable population databases. But I think that's how they get on board, and public health has access to all that information.
Great. I'll reach out to Paul just to make sure everybody's been taken care of. Thank you. I appreciate all you do. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. And thank you and Shannon and Abhisha for being great partners in getting these PPE out to the folks who need it.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Brian.
And I believe, and Commissioner Sherritt can either confirm or deny, but I believe that public health has a weekly phone call with the nursing homes, like the 14. So they are definitely in communication. Okay,
I believe you're absolutely right.
Okay, great. I'm going to move on to business leaders, and Shannon Buckmaster from the Chehalem Chamber of Commerce. What would you like to tell people today?
Actually, building on Brian's update, I do want our business partners to know that we still have KN95 masks available through our office. So please call 503-538-2014 or email office@chehalemvalley.org. We have a no contact process, so our office is open even though our door is locked. So contact us, we can get that ready and get it ready for pickup at our office during business hours, or I guess even now. No, we have an external lock now that locks, so I think you have to be here by 6 in order to get in the building. We're still adjusting to the new space, forgive me. And the second update is that we still have open enrollment for Leadership Chehalem Valley. We've had a lot of questions about what that's going to look like. We are running the first several sessions virtually for the safety of our community. We figured out a really quality, positive experience. It still includes advanced leadership training with a professional consultant, Gary Stewart, formerly of Rural Development Initiatives and the Ford Family Foundation. Does our professional development series. So it's a great opportunity for you to continue advancing your leadership skills locally. Information is on our website. Otherwise, if you have any questions, that's the bulk of my update.
Great, thank you very much. Questions for Shannon? All right, thank you very much. I totally spaced on Councillor Drabkin and updates from the city of McMinnville. So I'm going to do a swing through the city of McMinnville and do Councillor Drabkin, Joy Goodrum, Scott Cooper. Councillor.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon. Most of what I have to share with you today is kind of wine industry specific, but sorry, the phone here is ringing. If you want to come see me at the tasting room, we're closed, but I'm here. So sorry, that phone's gonna ring in the background. So, but it is wine industry specific. As we get closer to harvest, the Oregon Department of Agriculture, OSHA, and the OLCC, along with the Oregon Wine Board, Oregon Wine Growers Association, Willamette Valley Wineries Association, are all working to prep wineries and vineyards for safe harvesting. And so I want to tell members of those industries that there is a toolkit that's available on the Oregon Wine Board website, the Willamette Valley Wineries Association website, and on the Oregon Wine Growers Association website as well, with a number of different links to be able to go in and look at suggestions for how to keep your team safe during harvest. As a lot of those businesses are trying to figure out how to develop safety protocols, there are those resources available. Also relevant is that the OLCC has released, has adjusted their rules, and that they are now authorized to suspend licenses for establishments that are not following face covering and social distance requirements. And so they are either suspending licenses or fining restaurants, wineries, and other businesses in the sale of alcohol. Previously, only OSHA could penalize a business for being non-compliant, but that has been extended to the OLCC, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, as well. And they're doing that with the support of the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, who testified to the commission that the hospitality industry and its operators have just made too much of a significant investment of time and energy and money to implement the guidelines to risk being shut down again, kind of following off of what Mayor Cape mentioned earlier. For other and for other industries, if there are those who are flagrantly disobeying the guidelines we've been given, OSHA is the correct reporting avenue. And then the only other thing that I was going to talk about today was House Bill 4024, which Commissioner Sterrett already touched upon. So I'll just restate that if you need help with foreclosure prevention assistance information, to call 211. And then I'll just say that one more time, that if you need información para ayudar a prevenir embargos, para más información, llama a un centro para propietarios local de su área al marcar al 211. That's all I've got.
Great, thank you very much, Councilor Dropkin. Questions for Councilor? Okay, thank you.
Do you know what the average fine is for first-time violation or second time?
Let me pull up the email real quick and I'll get back to you. I think they're doing immediate suspensions. I believe what Steve Marks said is, so the two restaurants that have been fined, they had different fines. One was over $4,000, the other was over $7,000. And while this is a temporary rule, it has taken effect immediately. And Steve Marks put in this email, consider yourself, I don't see where it is. Fair, something along the lines of you've now received fair warning. So I think they are looking at suspensions at this point if people are not being compliant.
I'm glad I asked. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that addition. Did I see a raised hand from Mayor Cape? Oh. All right, great. We will go to Joy.
Waving to the delivery guy, FedEx. Sorry.
All right, we will go to Joy from the McMinnville Chamber then.
That's great. Good afternoon. Good to see everybody. Thanks again for letting me be here. Okay, 2 more weeks. Lemonade Day. Yay! Lemonade Day, August 15th. We still have 15 bags left. If you have not picked up your Lemonade Day bag, call the chamber, 503-472-6196, or email the chamber at info@mcminnville.org. Like Shannon and Chehalem Chamber, we've got still some PPE if you are interested in that. Also call the chamber, 503-472-6196. If you are a business and you need PPE for your staff or yourself, we're happy to come in to provide that to you to help you with your business. I had a meeting with the Evergreen Museum folks, and they're doing some great stuff over there. The vines look very healthy and very happy, and they've got some great ideas. So I can't speak about them because that's for them to talk about, but just know that they are thinking about what their next steps are going to be, and it's very exciting to see that they are doing what they can to really bring that campus back to just a beautiful space for our community. Like Chehalem Chamber, we have a Leadership MAC program, and ours will be starting next March. We've decided to hold off, and we will be recruiting our class, and we'll start in March. So it'll be the second Wednesday in March that starts. If you're interested in participating, call the chamber or email at info@mcminnville.org. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Joya. Scott Cooper, what would you like to tell people?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioner. Just a kind of a discussion topic, I guess, or an update on the Business Oregon Business Assistant Grant rounds 1 and 2 that the region had. I believe, and Michelle, maybe if you could just, if this is correct, but I believe that they're reopening the application process today, August 4th. to extend that period a little bit for applications. I'm not sure what the county numbers were for applications turned in to this point, but I do know McMinnville only had 7, and requests were somewhere around $22,500 of the almost 40,000 available. So the messaging and marketing is important on that. So if you're a business that can hear me that did not receive PPP or EIDL funds, please reach out to any one of the business people on here to help, or anybody on here that can certainly help steer you in the right direction. The website is willwp.org for additional information in the application. I urge you to do that. The round 3, the third round, and for McMinnville specific funding of $200,000 will be likely going live on August 12th, so just a little over a week. But that the marketing and the information will be going out at that time for 10 days. And again, the messaging and the marketing for us is critical on that to reach as many businesses as we possibly can that need the assistance and can be helped with this program. So that's really just wanted to get that message out, and that's it. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Scott. And Councilor Drabkin has a question.
It's not so much a question, but you reminded me, Oregon Department of Agriculture also has fast temp thermometers, which they are recommending work crews come. They have about 400 of those to be able to distribute to local businesses.
Great, thank you very much for that update. And then Joya has one more.
I'm sorry, Councilor Drabkin, is that for any business or is it just ag businesses? Just ag businesses. Got it. Thank you.
Good clarification. Abisha Stone, what would you like to tell people today?
Thank you, Commissioner. I was so busy writing down notes from everything everybody said. So to add to what Scott shared, which I appreciate him sharing out the fact that, yes, we still need for folks to reach back out and apply for those funds through Willamette Workforce Partnership. To reinforce, that was part of the issue that I was relaying to you, Senator Roblan, regarding those first couple of rounds having so many limiting factors. And we're now struggling to identify those businesses who didn't receive some small amount of money and now they don't qualify for this more substantial funding. The round 3 funds, which that program hasn't opened up yet, don't have so many of those limiting factors. But yes, please, businesses who have not had access to funding through the federal programs or previous state programs, just as Scott mentioned, please reach out because those funds are still available. I wanted to share that our region is through our regional solutions partner, Jody Christensen and Renata Wakely of the Council of Governments has put together an EDA, essentially a funding list. And I think that we've talked about this with this group a little bit before, but it's existing and known projects for our region so that we can try to prioritize, receive the appropriate sort of support through our Oregon agency partners and put in front of funding opportunities, these large important projects within our region. So the 3-county area is coming together and has populated a list. I want to say Commissioner Kula, something like 60 projects at least are on there at this point. And that's pretty exciting. So there's more to come about that, but I just wanted to share with this group that there is this regional list that has come together. Some of those projects are directly related to COVID-19 recovery programs, and some of those projects are larger kind of infrastructure, general economic development projects. Also, last week, the governor's office adjourned the work of the Coronavirus Advisory Council and announced or introduced the Racial Justice Council, which is helping to lay the groundwork for the next steps of Oregon's continued COVID response and recovery. I'm paraphrasing an email here from Jody. And we expect to find out today on our 3 o'clock call really what that work looks like going forward, what the role of regional solutions and the economic recovery team, which is the group that we regional partners sit on, what the direction will be and how that's going to be set. So we'll be discussing the governor's equity and recovery framework. So that's the work that we'll be learning a little bit more about today. I also wanted to let this group know that McMinnville Economic Development Partnership, SEDCOR, and the McMinnville and Chehalem chambers have been working on a business recovery program. So we have put together the framework to support our business community in a coronavirus recovery sort of a platform, in a very collaborative framework of a project. And we are currently seeking some funding in order to support that work. We also are pursuing this sort of work at a regional level, so the 3-county regional level, and it is this Yamhill County group that is helping to drive what that's going to look like. And then I'm working with partners in Marion County as well to try to craft this regional program. So I'm going to keep saying this. Our businesses need for our energy to pivot toward what things are going to look like, right? I'm not going to say a new normal. I'm not going to get back to normal. There's no normal, right? It's just what the world's going to look like, but they need our support in helping them to get there. And our organizations need to be solvent so that we can support that work. So we've put together a program. We're continuing to flesh out the details of that program. And then we are actively looking for some funding to support that as well. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
You have questions for Abhishek? All right, great. Thank you very much, Abhishek. Well, we've made it to almost 2 o'clock. Thanks for everybody for your patience. I'll close unless we have any additional follow-ups. Okay, great. I wanted to highlight that when the Oregon Health Authority presented the new case counts per 100,000, that was going to be their metric for school reopening or for school closing if there was in-person classes happening. 10 new cases per week per 100,000 people was the line that was drawn in the sand, right? So if you have that number for 3 weeks in a row, if you have that low of a case count for 3 weeks in a row, and you have a 5% or lower positivity rate, and the state has a 5% or lower positivity rate, then you can have in-person classes. And likewise, if you have over 30 new cases per 100,000 per week, that's the time when the ODE says you have to go back to comprehensive distance learning. And I just looked at the case count document that the ODE and the OHA are maintaining, and I'll put a link to it in the chat. But right now, from July 26th through October 3rd, Yamhill County has 76.8, I think, new cases per 100,000 with a 12.7% positivity rate. And you can see what the previous 2 weeks were relative to that. So for people in the community, we as a county are seeing much higher rates than we have in the past. And while one day is a snapshot that encompasses many days of symptom onset, and for that, you can look statewide at the EPI curve that OHA maintains. The EPI curve for the state, as I see it, is actually in a positive direction. After having a big curve up, and we are seeing reductions in the total number of cases reported, per day by symptom onset. But in Yamhill County, our numbers continue to go up. And so I want that to be something that people just understand is however people are defining cases, presumptive versus confirmed, you can find the numbers of how many presumptive and how many confirmed there are, but we are seeing increases in case counts. And when I talked to our public health officer, I said, when should we be worried? And I was told when we see daily case counts that are regularly in the double digits. We have case counts that are regularly in the double digits right now. We're seeking information from the OHA about resources and contact tracing abilities at the state level. And so I'm a very optimistic person. Is working. Senator Roblan is going to be doing a lot county and our state, for example. But remember that we all have a part in this. We all have a thing that we can do to reduce the transmission in our community, and that could just be having a smaller gathering than you intended, or going out slightly fewer times. And it sounds terrible in the sense that we're keeping businesses from being fully open by the choices that we make, but we're also keeping people from getting sick and keeping people from dying. That's just the straight up truth of it. So I'm happy to have further conversations about what the numbers look like in our county, and also what things like the tests are all about. I've run many PCRs in the past, which is the basis of the diagnostic test. So reach out to me if you have questions, both in the community and here on the call. But if not, we will see you on Friday. And thank you, Senator. We wish you luck in the session, and Commissioner Sterrett and I'll be watching closely. All right, we will see you on Friday, everybody, and thank you very much.